All right, everybody, the moon is still in Scorpio, and we are preparing for Saturn to station direct on the 10th of October. I know I was saying the 8th. I double and triple checked it, but Mercury got me. So Saturn stations direct on the 10th, and that means for some of us, we'll be taking some forward motion. Since May, Saturn has been retrograde. On one hand, it's been really, really good. It's been helping us get ready for this time in the fall. And it also may be why some of you have been feeling a lot lethargic, lack of energy, kind of blah. You should be starting to get some energy back. Some of you who are a little more sensitive might already be feeling that energy starting to rise up. For those of you who have Saturn squaring with an ascendant or a moon or your sun, you might be feeling a little more tired. Everybody responds to the energy in their own individual way. I, for one, am looking forward to the station of Saturn direct because it makes me move forward. It has been a slog since May, but now we get to start moving forward. The roller coaster of 2021 starts to move even faster after the 10th. Saturn in Aquarius is all about governance of and by and for the people. That's why you're seeing the labor movements move forward faster now. This is a preview of what is coming when Pluto is in Aquarius, and it's going to be in Aquarius for a good long time. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a process. Right? Isn't this fun? I like the background too. Yeah, it's like a painting. I know, it's kind of cool. So Saturn stationing direct is going to start moving things forward, and it's also going to put a spotlight on some leadership who hasn't necessarily been working in the interests of the people. This could be corporate leaders, this could be government leaders at all levels. It could be city, county, state, nation. And this is a worldwide transit. This isn't just happening in the United States. I point out the stuff that's happening where I live, but you can look for the news headlines or at the issues happening where you live. It's the same transit, okay? So we are looking at the people taking forward motion. Now, what would that be? Would that be, what side of the aisle? What people? It's all people. All people are fed up. They're talking about it in different ways, right? My earrings, right? Are these not cool? Target. Yep. I found them and I was like, a must have, right? So thank you. Yeah, I got some hair bands because my bangs are just driving me nuts. So we've gone back to the 90s. We took a trip back to the 90s. You could see pictures of me in my 20s, and this was my hairstyle until I did the Jennifer in the late 90s. Yeah, I did have the Jennifer because we have short or straight, fine hair. That's kind of what you can do besides a bob. And I did those two. But anyway, so we've got Saturn stationing direct, and I had a request from Casey, one of my patrons and my writing partner, asking about how do you get ready for Saturn direct. Well, some of the ways we can get ready is just get organized. So if you've been feeling lethargic, if you've not had a ton of energy over the last 6 months or so, what I would do is I would start getting organized. Like, put your paperwork in order. If you've got a messy desk, just straighten things up. Look at who you can collaborate with, right? The earrings. I knew the earrings would be a hit. Yeah. For those of you watching on YouTube, again, this is a TikTok live. The earrings are a thing. So one of the great things about Saturn in Aquarius is it's about restructuring communally. Okay, it's a great time for collaborative effort. But the thing is most people haven't learned how to communicate and collaborate. We've been thrown into peer groups since the time we were kids with a lot of arbitrary rules based on dominance and control. People haven't really learned how to work together. Usually you get thrown into a group project with a bunch of people that don't see eye to eye, don't have anything in common. You say, here, do it together. That's not going to work. And then people react The other way, when they get out in life, they either want to rock it solo or they look for people who are like-minded. The thing is you end up with a bunch of idea people and nobody to execute except that one person who always did the group project. Sound familiar? If you want to rock the energy of 2021, you need to be able to assess your own skill sets and look for people who have complementary skill sets. Whether you have your own business, whether you're looking to be a freelancer, whether you're building a side gig, building a business, or even at work. Like, look for your allies, okay? These aren't just people who think like you. You have complementary skills. Why am I saying that? Because while Saturn is in Aquarius, we also have Mars in Libra. Mars in Libra is all about partnership and teamwork. You want to rock this energy, you got to find people you can work, play, and communicate with, okay? If you just want to run it your way, my way or the highway, it's really going to suck. Life is going to suck, okay? For those people who want to be emperor, I don't know if you've heard about that, life's going to suck. Point blank. Whereas if you want to work collaboratively, life will improve. So if you have a community or you're building a community, listening to that community is really, really important. I did that tonight. I was going to live stream anyway, but somebody said, hey, how do we get ready for Saturn Direct? I'm like, cool, I'll do a live stream on it. So there we go. Let me see. Question time. Does the degree in which your Saturn is say anything? Do the degrees say anything? They don't necessarily mean a whole lot. Like, there's no divinatory purpose to the degrees. However, at 0 degrees, it is the anaretic degree, one of them. There's 2 anaretic degrees. There's 0 degrees and there's 29 degrees. 0 degrees holds all the potential of the sign, okay? And 29 degrees is all the maturity of the sign. So 0 degrees Aries means you were kind of forced to discipline yourself, okay? Or you were overly structured by people in your childhood, okay? So you might have had a very domineering parent, and you weren't allowed to take any agency on yourself. Or just from the time you were a little kid, you're like, no, me do, okay? So that's what that is. Oh, hey, Julianne. I'm glad to be live too. Yeah. No, I don't practice degree theory. It's not credible astrology. I'll just say it point blank. It's not credible. So it does a lot to fit confirmation bias. So I haven't seen anybody who practices degree theory actually have too many accurate predictions that weren't entirely vague. So, yeah. You can't wait. It's 0 degrees of playing opposite your sun. Saturn isn't 0. I think you're confused between what your natal placement is and the transit. So transit Saturn will station direct at 6 degrees Aquarius. Okay, so your natal Saturn doesn't ever change retrograde. It doesn't ever change. Your natal chart is static. Transits are the moving planets, and they continue to move. That natal chart is like a photograph. It's a snapshot of time and space from the time you took your first breath, hopefully, because that's actually what astrologers consider life, is when a child takes its first breath, okay? So thank you, Curtis, right? Thank you, Molly. Everybody loving the earrings. So, okay. It's applying on your sun. Okay, cool. I get you. That's why I love Coffee with Lori, because then we can talk about this on Zoom, which, by the way, Coffee with Lori is on Sunday, patrons. Be there or be round. So, yeah. There you go. You've got the opposite. You've got 29th degree in Aquarius. So, Aquarius is a fixed sign. But fixed doesn't mean inflexible. Fixed means it's an anchoring and a grounding energy. So we've had the cardinal movement, which cardinal and fixed signs have been playing off each other, all year, because even though cardinal signs took the huge hit in 2020, we're still getting beat up a little bit a couple times a month because Pluto is still in Capricorn. The fixed signs are getting massaged by Saturn and Uranus right now, getting prepared for Pluto in Aquarius, which has a 31-year run. But it won't be as intense as the Capricorn era because it is a slower transit, because we're making enduring change. We're anchoring change into the future. So It'll be your first coffee with Lori. Oh my gosh. Make sure you say hi. Anything to know about Living by Luna? When you join, make sure you go and you look at all the old posts from the beginning, because there's a ton of information in Patreon. It's not well organized. We're working on getting it organized. Patreon does not let me curate content very well because it's meant to just be an information thing and you curate elsewhere. But I did it back asswards. So there is a ton of content. Malcolm, my gosh, buddy. All right, say hi to everybody. This is Malcolm if you're new here. So, yeah. So, emergencies. Wait a minute. I can't say it. I know you said we need to keep cash on hand, but you can't remember why. We keep cash on hand throughout this winter. And actually into the foreseeable future for emergencies in case there's hacking on payment processing. I don't see banks being affected too much, but it could be that different processors go down. We've already seen credit card companies have issues. There's been a lot of hacking. If anybody heard about what happened to Twitch the other day, that was pretty heavy duty. That was a pretty heavy-duty security breach. I don't know if you guys read about that, but that was a lot of information that got dumped out there. Not that I approve, I don't, but, there we go. Yes, Malcolm, I love you. I'm giving him scratches. So, yes, we like this great cheese. So, yep, Sun, Moon, and Mars are all opposite your moon. You're feeling it? Yep, that'll do it. Yeah, yesterday, which is why I didn't live stream, Saturn is currently squaring my Saturn. I stopped scratching. Saturn is currently square my Saturn, and then the moon was in opposition to my Saturn, and it was like it took all freaking day to get the stupid horoscopes written. Actually, it had taken through the night even, and so just by the time it moved off all of that, I just went to bed. I was done. It was a lot of energy. The nice thing, is like even astrologers are subject to transits, right? And we can move through the energy pretty well. We can surf it, but you can know when there's like low energy, you're meant to rest. You're not always meant to run full blast, right? Oh, these are actually old glasses, but I found them again. I own like 50 pairs. These are all reading glasses. So yeah, Malcolm, my dog, he's a sweet Taurus. Does it mean anything to have a few retrogrades in your birth chart? Almost everybody has a retrograde planet in their chart, at least one, okay? So retrograde just means that planet operates more internally versus externally. In that, like for some of you who have Saturn retrograde in your natal chart, that's not a bad thing necessarily. Like let's say you've got Saturn in Pisces and your Saturn is retrograde. You actually have more discipline than your peers who have Saturn in Pisces direct. Okay. Because Saturn in Pisces direct isn't necessarily the most disciplined. Okay. Retrogrades are not bad. Direct does not mean good. It's just the way the energy plays out. Okay. So, yeah. So you have Mercury and Sag and it's retrograde. It means you're a more internal thinker. You're always studying self. You're always double checking the information. You're probably good. Instead of just knee jerking, you double check your sources. You might overthink things a little bit too much. So yeah. Venus retrograde, it just depends. It depends on where it's in your chart. Venus retrograde might mean you take a little minute before you allow yourself to receive things, but it depends on the sign. So, but retrogrades aren't bad. They're not bad. Okay, so that's the main thing to know. I teach in my Patreon and I offer workshops. So I'll do a workshop on retrogrades someday, but I don't talk about individual placements in general. I want to actually talk about Saturn, the transit Saturn, stationing direct on the 10th. That's what we're talking about today. Yeah, well, some of the most famous people that were famous thinkers, had Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde does not mean your brain doesn't work. That is not what it means. There's a lot of people who give really bad information about astrology online. Everybody thinks they know. Just because you can say a term doesn't mean you know anything about it. Okay, that's what gets labeled us labeled as a pseudoscience, is all this pop astrology, and although I would accuse the scientists of not doing the studies. So yeah. Hey, Rosalie, you're on Patreon. Go back. If you go onto Patreon, you'll see the link in all of the horoscopes, and I'll get the moon in Sag comes out tomorrow, so you'll get a link in that as well. So you'll get the links for Coffee to Lori in the horoscopes, and then I'll put it out on. I'll put out a special announcement outside of the horoscopes as well. Just because you have dyslexia doesn't mean you're smart. Dyslexia, actually, most people with dyslexia are very intelligent. Reading is not a sign of intelligence. Being able to decipher it's a skill. Okay, it's a skill. Reading is very new in the human experience. So my son is dyslexic and dysgraphic, and he's extremely brilliant. And he doesn't have Mercury retrograde, but he's got all 5 personal planets in Gemini. So, but it has nothing to do with intelligence. Unfortunately, people get labeled as such. One of the things I'd like to point out to you is society and culture are taking a massive hit in the next 20, 30 years. Malcolm, I'm talking. You're being so rude. Yeah. Oh, I'm being rude? Did you just grumble at me? Whoop. Dude, what are you doing? Really? Okay, more scritchies. Okay. Anyway, sorry. We're having a moment. Society and culture are taking a major hit over the next 20, 30 years. And so all of you who don't fit in, well, here's why. You're building the new society and culture, okay? People who are easily conformed, and that is not most people. Most people actually fit outside the norm. The norm is not, it's a mean average, and it's manufactured through social and cultural conditioning, okay? So people who feel different or feel like a black sheep or feel like an outsider are going to do a lot better as we go through the next 30 years than the people who were really good at doing the whole conformity thing. Because we have to innovate. We absolutely have to innovate if we're going to make it. So he does want loves. He also wants to fall asleep, and he was trying to get comfy. So now he's behind me on the pillow. So yeah. You're in vet school, right? Yeah, there you go. Tell you this week will be better. I don't know what your chart is, hon. I don't know. Even if I've read it, I'm not going to remember it. Things start moving really, 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 really rapidly. We have Pluto direct. Next, we're having Saturn station direct, and then later on we have Jupiter and then Mercury stationing direct, and they happen within 24 hours of each other, and that's going to be a lot of energy moving as well. So, what is the theme of when Pluto transits the 7th house? I talk about that stuff at Coffee with Lori. I'm talking about getting ready for Saturn stationing direct. Right? I'm already starting to pick up energy. I lost some yesterday, but in general, I mean, that was just because Saturn is square my Saturn and the moon was opposed Saturn. It was just a lot of energy. But once the moon moved forward, I feel 10 times better. I'm already starting to pick up some speed. I would highly suggest get your ducks in a row before Saturn stations direct, because we're going to start moving pretty fast. You need to be aware that the day Saturn stations direct, there might be some security breaches online. We might see more like internet security stuff. Make sure you just change your passwords frequently. The other thing we need to do while Saturn is still in Aquarius, it's become abundantly clear that we need to own our own agency as the people. We can't rely on those who use dominance and control, and that's most leaders in our world, because that's how people have been trained to lead. My way or the highway. I enforce the rules. You're big, I'm little. I'm right, you're wrong. Anyone watch Matilda? That line of thinking is on the way out, but it's like slaying a dragon. The dragon isn't quite done yet, okay? And so it hasn't breathed its last breath, and it's going to fight to survive. So it's important to kind of understand your own resources, your own capabilities, and look at forming a structured network around yourself of people who you can work, communicate, and play with. Let me take a look. Your parents are on hospice. Oh, bless. Oh, I'm sorry, Authentic Mystic. That's hard. Yeah, it's short, compassionate. Yeah, absolutely. That's the most we could all hope for, right? My parents are elderly. I understand that very, very much. The last thing we want is to see our loved ones suffer. My thoughts are with you. I'm sorry to hear that. And sometimes it's during these time periods, like when we have big planetary energy, like Pluto stationing direct, a full moon, a new moon, Saturn stationing direct. Sometimes those are like little gateways in time, and you'll hear about a lot of people transitioning just because it's like a big window, right? It makes it super easy to pass. So bless you and your family. Yeah. So thank you, Rita. I'm doing my 90s look. What are my thoughts about flying during a Mercury retrograde? My thoughts on Mercury retrograde for travel in general is that you just need to take more time. You need to do stuff, with ease. Don't be in a rush. Don't leave late. Give yourself plenty of time. And then be aware there might be delays. Somebody else asked that question on one of my videos, and I was like, well, just be patient and know that you got to have plenty of room and plenty of time. And they were like, hey, you were right. My flight was delayed. It's really common with any kind of travel during a Mercury retrograde. But Mercury retrograde isn't like the big stuff. Mercury retrograde is the little stuff. Okay, so Mercury retrograde was reminding me I filled up all the memory on my Microsoft Surface. And I knew that. Did I clean it up? No. Is it messing around with me when I work on Word? Yes. Did it make me late on my horoscopes yesterday? Yes. Do I have another computer I could have used? Yes. Did I go downstairs and get it? No. Hello. Mercury retrograde. It's annoyances, okay? The big stuff that's been happening has been Mercury square Pluto. That's a much different story. That's bigger energy. Mercury retrograde itself is annoyances. So, hey, how are you, Carrie? You've been on my mind. I'm glad you're here. So, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry for your friend, but she's at peace, right? On Venus conjuncting the South Node this week, it'll probably be financial issues. It'll probably be financial information. It's, we'll probably see the stock market take some dives as we head into the winter. That could be one of them, especially with, what is it called, Evergrande, the Chinese real estate company. It keeps defaulting on its foreign bonds, and they're sure working really, really hard on the PR for that, saying, oh no, it's not going to be like Lehman Brothers. And I'm like, great. When people protest that hard, the lady doth protest too much. Yeah, well, I think the investment world doth protest too much. Be very wary when you read articles in business, business magazines like Forbes or Inc. or a lot of those placements are paid placements. So just be very aware that that's not just journalism. A lot of it's paid journalism. So, hey. Oh, I'm excited to do your year ahead. That was great for your birthday in January. It's such an intense session. It's 2 hours, right? And we go through month by month by month by month, and it's super fun. By the way, on Halloween, I'm teaching two classes on Saturn through the houses. And of course, we'll talk about the signs as well in your natal chart. And then we'll talk about the Saturn return, what it is as a process and both as a divination chart. Most people don't realize that a return is a chart in and of itself, like a solar return gives you a chart, a lunar return gives you a chart, a Venus return gives you a chart, a Mars return gives you a chart. All returns give a divination chart. And it's just because, I don't know, since the 60s, astrologers were trying to prove themselves legit. And so we're like, we don't really practice divination. We're just natal astrologers. You can't be a good natal astrologer if you can't forecast and understand transits and mundane astrology. You want to be a good natal astrologer, you've got to understand the mundane side of astrology. You got to be able to do both, folks. You can't just do one and be really, really good and accurate. You'd be okay. It's not going to be good. And I am forever grateful to my teachers many years ago who went, learn it all. So, hey, Dwabbit. So, yeah. So, to get ready for this Saturn direct, it's another good time. Oh, love all of you too. For Saturn direct, you want to get yourself organized. You want to see who in your community that you can reach out to. A lot of times we think we have to shoulder the burdens alone. Saturn in Aquarius is about group work. Okay, governance by the group, not a single individual. Okay, so having Saturn retrograde since May, Saturn was acting a little bit more like Saturn in Capricorn. And we're going to see the consequences of that, of various leaders who haven't necessarily been ethical. And people are going to start getting their comeuppance. And one of the things we're going to talk about in the Saturn workshops is the idea of karma. Because Saturn is the Lord of karma, but most people don't really understand it in a modern point of view because everybody's been taught about crime and punishment and reward. And honestly, it's just consequences. And I talked a lot about that on my latest podcast episode. And if you haven't listened to my podcast, hit the link in my bio and head over to that. But understanding that it's super, super important. Understanding that consequences happen both in a positive and negative way. So, hang on a second. There should be a lot of people with Saturn in Aries. Oh, thank you. Yes, I decided to get the hair out of my eyes, and I can't put these glasses up on my forehead. I can't do this with them because they have a nose piece, and it gets stuck in my hair. So I was like, oh wait, I just bought headbands. So, yeah, a lot of people have Saturn in Aries probably in this audience because you were born like 96 to 98. So, yeah. Jupiter goes direct on it's technically stations like the 17th and goes direct. It's in direct motion on the 18th. Yeah. You feel old with Saturn in Capricorn? Well, a lot of times we do feel old when we're in our late 20s, early 30s. Pretty much. And I have to say, the Saturn in Capricorn folks really are spiritual overachievers. You guys really took a beating, especially for those of you who went through your returns in 2020. Because having Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in that return, they just made you in beast mode. Okay, that was a lot to have. And remember, the return sets a chart for divination, and that's one of the things we're going to go through in the Saturn return class. Now, I know not everybody has the dinero to do it. And so I've got a scholarship for you guys. Okay? It's good for the next 2 weeks. All right? So if you want to take the Saturn return class where I explain what Saturn returns are and how the process works as well as the chart, it's an 1.5-hour class, then use this code when you sign up for it. Okay? Scholarship 1. Okay, Scholarship 1. And that'll give you 50% off that class as a scholarship from me because I want people to be able to learn how to do it. Okay, so Scholarship 1, number 1, is your code to get 50% off that class. I know a lot of you in your Saturn returns are having a time of it. But even if you just passed your Saturn return or you're heading towards your second one or it's 10 years away, understanding that the Saturn return sets a 28.5-year cycle. Okay, you'll be dealing with those themes until the next Saturn return. And there's different times where Saturn is square Saturn, where it's opposite Saturn. You've got the final square, like I'm in my final Saturn square before the second return, okay? So, yeah. So, well, my goal is to teach as many people as possible, okay? It's why I worked so hard through the summer. I was trying to get everybody ready for the fall and winter. Now that we're in October, there's not a whole lot more I can do to prepare you, right? Now everything is in motion. Continue buying a little extra at the store when you go to the store. Make sure if buying Christmas presents is super, super important to you, get them done now, because it's just going to get harder and harder to get parcels delivered as we head into the holiday season. Okay. I really don't suggest holiday travel this year at all, because the final Saturn-Uranus square will happen on Christmas Eve. I think we're going to have really, really severe weather. That's what it looks like to me. And across the world, it's going to be a very fascinating time because it's a global transit. But yeah, so I bet you felt a huge shift after it was over, right? You barely noticed it. It already blew, right? Yeah. I will say my Saturn return was one of the most magical years of my life. And I was one of those people who had to deal with Saturn going over my Saturn, backing up, bump, bump, and then driving forward again. But it's that third pass that's the actual return. Okay, so you have the process, absolutely, and it's a maturity process. But it is, the return itself is a specific event that sets a specific chart, and you can see the overarching theme of that. And so we'll go through how to kind of figure it out. Not a lot of software makes that chart, so I always just kind of hand calculate it. So, which means I sit with my phone and I play with dates until I get Saturn exactly degree and minute to where it belongs. So we'll go through that in the class. So yeah, it'll be super awesome. Well, we're having to let go. One of the things that we're having to let go as a collective is a lot of our ideas about how reality is. Like, this is how the world works. And for some of us, we always knew this world just didn't work, right? But people who believed in the structures, in the work situation, in how our society operated, maybe just unthinkingly going about life, now people are seeing that things have got to change, and that the onus is on us. The onus is on us. Okay? It's that simple. We have to take accountability, knowing that the leadership honestly doesn't have our best interests in heart. And I'm not talking about partisanship. I'm not even talking about government necessarily. Living the corporate grind because we're afraid to be independent at all, or gathered together to form a workers' cooperative because people be like, but you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk when you take a job anyway, because they can fire you anytime you want. That's why we're going to see the labor movement grow. Okay? But labor and unions are only as good as the participatory members. So it's not just enough to have a union, you have to be active in it. Otherwise, it's just the active people who get the say-so. And so we have to all kind of step it up a little bit, So if things are important to you, instead of just yapping about it, you got to take some responsibility. That's Saturn. You got to take some responsibility and show up. And you can't just show up by signing a petition. That only does so much. You got to take some action, and all of us have to take action in some way. So, that's what I was doing. I was getting as many people as I could ready, as hard as I could, from the spring through the summer into the fall. And the minute Pluto went direct, I was like, okay, I know I've got as many people as I really can get. I'm going to try my best to get things going, but I've reached who I can reach. I feel good with that. And I do. I know there's people who have made arrangements. They're not going to lose, too much power because they've got generators that have carbon monoxide devices on them that measure the carbon monoxide. They've been looking at their groceries, making sure they've got stuff for their kids, art supplies. Our Patreon Discord has been very active in preparing for months. And so there's a ton of people who are ready now, and I feel really good about that. I knew I wasn't going to reach the whole world, right? The whole world doesn't even want to listen to me, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah, flipping the tables over. Some of it, well, you're welcome. You're welcome, Dwight. Right. It is. Well, it's a risk literally just to live on planet Earth. Honestly, I don't even think we're yes, it's late stage capitalism, but it's more fascism than anything else. So it's corporate socialism, certainly not benefiting anybody else. And so being independent and supporting other independent people or other actual small businesses, micro businesses, mom and pop shops, not what the SBA calls a small business, according to the Small Business Administration. This shocked me, because when I first started a business back into the early 2000s, I went to the Small Business Administration's, website to do some research. And what did I find? A small business has like less than 500 employees and makes 25 million a year. And I was like, I'm not going to make $500 a month. I guess that doesn't count. That's where I was at then. I was just learning. I was trying to teach myself from the ground up with no capital. And because I was like, well, we've got the internet as leverage. If you have, $30-$40, what can you grow? What can you grow? And so I learned by trial and error, and then I started teaching other people how to do it, because that was the most subversive thing I could think of doing, because I knew 2020 was coming. I knew people needed to get ready, and nobody was going to listen to me back then saying, hey, I'm an astrologer. I see this stuff in the sky and you really want to get ready. People already thought I was weird. They weren't going to listen to the astrology back into the 2000s. The world had gotten very conservative. So that's why I learned the business side, because I wanted it for me so I could at least help and teach my children, and then how I could teach other people, especially women, how to own their own agency. And I don't mean agency as a business, but take their agency over their life, work together, network, work from a non-competitive space. You don't have to compete with one another. You can actually work and join forces with each other to maximize things. We have to be collaborative to make it forward with the economic challenges coming ahead, as well as the climate crisis, because it's going to impact absolutely everything from transportation to food production, manufacturing. It's going to impact people's health, because certain weather patterns make it easier for certain health conditions to be exacerbated. So it's super important that we learn to collaborate during this time that Saturn is in Aquarius, because it helps us structure society in different ways. Okay. And it's time to innovate. So once Saturn stations direct, we're going to go back to seeing people look at you're going to hear a lot about restructuring corporations. We're probably going to restructure how real estate investment is done in this country, because Evergrande is not paying its non-domestic investors, which means there's American investors who are going to get hammered. They have $300 billion in debt. So they're contributing to part of this problem. It should be quite sizable. There's been a lot of money spent on PR saying, oh no, it won't be like Lehman Brothers. Really? Bet it is. It's like, so I think we're going to see some of that come under the spotlight. We're obviously going to see a lot of arguing over the debt ceiling and the government funding. We're in quite a precarious position. So we'll see. What do you say? Will I post this live later? Yes, it will be up on YouTube. So all of you watching on YouTube, is this like a weird moment in time where I say it's going to be posted on YouTube and you're watching this on YouTube? Is that a little trippy? I would feel that was trippy. Okay. I have not read Becoming Heroines. No. I honestly don't read a whole lot anymore because of my vision. I'll listen to the odd book, but I'm busy writing books. I read an entire Carnegie Library by the time I was 14, and then I read avariciously into my 30s many thousands of books. And then I just decided I needed to create from there. So I just don't read a whole lot anymore. Partly my eyesight. I can create content or I can consume it. So I don't really watch TV. I skim articles on occasion. But given my eyesight, I just don't have time to read anymore. But I love to hear about resources from other people, you know. So, yeah. Which you were on, and yes, it did feel trippy. Oh, that's funny, right? Any books you recommend for the beginning of astrology understanding? Oh, we've got somebody saying, hi, YouTubers. Oh, you watched my YouTube of yesterday's live. Awesome. Oh, good night, Carrie. Okay, so for beginning astrology books, I always recommend The Idiot's Guide to Astrology. It's a great beginning book. And then Alan Oken's Complete Astrology. Those two books are excellent. And then if you go to my website, I have the Astro Guides. So I have Astro Guide Volume 1, Issue 1, which I call the ultimate cheat sheet because it goes through the very basic understanding of astrology, all the glyphs, what everything means, and it even gives you a little hint and tips on the aspects, etc., and the story of the houses, you know, how human consciousness unfolds through the houses. It's one of my favorite things about that. It's a 47-page guide. You can go find that up on my website. Link in the bio. Just go to the shop. When you go to the link in my bio, it takes you to a page on my website. Just click the navigation bar and it'll take you to the shop. I also have the guide, Astro Guide Volume 1, Issue 2 is Instinct and Intuition. It's a guide on understanding the difference and how to find that in the natal chart and how to identify your own intuitive abilities. And then we have Astro Guide Volume 1, Issue 3, which is the guide to Chiron. And that explains kind of the history of Chiron in astrology, why people misattribute the Greek myths, because the Greeks never used Chiron. It was discovered in 1977. And then explaining how it is the healing pathway and how to identify that in your chart. So those are there, and we'll soon have the guides to Saturn through the signs and houses, and the guide to Saturn returns. Those will be available with the classes I teach on Halloween, which is Saturn through the houses and Saturn retrograde. And again, oh, thank you guys. Again, I am offering scholarships for the Saturn class, and it's just for the Saturn return class. Use the code scholarship1, and that'll give you 50% off the Saturn return workshop. Scholarship 1, I just put the code in the chat, is what will give you 50% off the Saturn return workshop. And it doesn't matter if you've already gone through your Saturn return. People are like, well, mine was 10 years ago. Okay, that's great. Now let's understand what was going on, because you're in a 28.5-year cycle, and there are other parts to the cycle. So you have the Saturn return, then you have the first square after that, then you have the opposition, then you have the final square before moving in to the second return. We get up to 3 Saturn returns in a lifetime. A lot of people don't realize that because everybody only talks about the first one. The second one is also very, very important. So, and if you missed my last live stream about Saturn, you can watch it on YouTube. That was the other night. You really want to consider everything. You want to look at, am I doing this because I was told this is the only way I should do this? If you come to me and you say, Lori, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? That idea of being right and wrong, instead of like really trusting and knowing yourself, like self-actualizing, really understanding yourself. Stop going along with the crowd or listening to people who don't really know what they're talking about. A lot of times people will get a really good idea for a business, tell all their friends and family, and their friends and family will say, oh no, get a real job. How many people are working 3 real jobs and not being able to pay their rent or do more than pay their rent? How's that working? So being innovative, but then people will go to start a business and then they think, oh, I need to sell a physical product. There's no way to deliver stuff right now. Starting a business that requires either supply coming into you or you shipping stuff out isn't going to be a winner right now, and it won't be for the foreseeable future. So you have to know how to maximize your natural skills and abilities. Okay, so half the time you have something you think is just common sense and you're really good at it, and you wonder why everybody else is such a moron and they don't get it. Well, it's not common sense. And this is stuff I've taught for years, trying to get people ready for 2020. I did a video about that today, about how I got ready for 2020. I started looking at 2020 in 1998. And I started innovating my thought process, okay? Innovating my thought process. If I thought I was supposed to do something a certain way, I would check in with myself and go, is that really the case? Am I supposed to do it this certain way because everybody says so? But what do they know? Like, they're not doing anything different either, right? So that questioning and then innovating from there, innovating from your normal mode of operation, okay? Like, a lot of people will be like, especially women, you underqualify yourself all the time. You'll look at a job posting and be like, I don't think I'm qualified, I'm not going to post. Men do not do that same thing. Men do not go, oh, I don't think I'm qualified, I don't think I'm going to apply for it. They apply anyway. They shoot their shot. And so you need to, especially as women, kind of switch over the curve, okay, and go, I have the right to apply because they may be looking for other things. So some jobs are going to go away. Some jobs are going to stick around. Labor is going to have the advantage. You want to make sure you're involved and participating. There's been a lot of research, like even though women tend to get better grades in undergraduate, they tend to get lower grades at the MBA level. Why? A lot of the grading system is based on participation, not just doing the work and taking the tests. And so women will stay quiet and not actively participate, okay? They don't want to be too bold. They don't want to seem arrogant, blah, blah, blah. Be arrogant. Humility is for men, guys. We don't need to be humbled anymore. It's okay to know what you're good at. Innovate from your social and cultural programming. That's what's going to move things forward. We don't have time to get rescued anymore, okay? It was never rescue anyway. So it's blowing through the social and cultural norms is innovation. Grouping together and supporting one another. Women have often been socialized to compete against one another instead of support one another. That is an extremely modern concept based off scarcity. And instead of supporting one another, and I'm not saying just support one another, just like if somebody's a heinous person, don't support them just because they are gendered the same as you identify. However, if you both do the same thing, trying to cutthroat each other is ridiculous because neither one of you does it exactly the same way. And there's lots and lots to go around, okay? But it's good to form a network of people who have complementary skills, right? You don't tear people down, you build each other up. That's what's going to move us forward. So learning how to do that. Also, not just like one of the things that's always gotten me, and I always like to double check if I'm doing it. If you have two experts, so one is a man and one is a woman, or they identify as such, a lot of times people will automatically defer to the male voice. Okay, and you can catch yourself doing it because we were all trained to do that. So always check your own internal biases too, because it can be subtle. This is all social and cultural programming that we have to undo. So as Saturn stations direct, it's important to kind of own up and take responsibility for your own social behaviors. So yeah. Oh, hey Ben, how you doing? Yeah, build each other up. Yep. Yeah, to be honest, when I think of the divine, I don't think of it as gender at all, because to me, energy is without gender. Okay, I think looking at our humanity and understanding that we are divine sparks of creation and just accepting that as a fact without looking at gender entirely. I'm all about going to non-dualism, to remove ourselves from binary language. Obviously, there is a reproductive aspect at this point in the species, but almost no actual activities other than sexual reproduction. Other than that, there are no activities that are biologically gender-based other than reproduction, and from a biological level. Okay, everything else is social ideas around who should be doing what. And I can tell you, I'm a hand spinner, I'm a fiber artist, I make yarn on a spinning wheel. Until the Industrial Revolution started. And one of the first things that the Industrial Revolution did was automate spinning and create big woolen factories for weaving. Okay, almost everybody spun because it took 6 spinners to keep up with one weaver. Okay, so men would spin on drop spindles. Women would spin at the wheel. Spinsters were usually older people because you don't need a whole lot of hand-eye coordination to be a good spinner once you know how. And so that changed the economy, going to factories, right? And it changed the dynamics of what, was men and women's work. Just saying. Basically, if there was stuff to do, everybody did it. And that's if you go way back. So, do I believe in ghosts? It's just energy. Ghosts are energy. They're an imprint. Ghosts, spirits, etc. Yeah, I've been able to talk to dead people since I was a kid. That has nothing to do with the astrology I do, but the astrology is the math. But yeah, so, yeah. So, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, so if you want to get ready for Saturn direct on the 10th of October, you want to take stock of the people in your community that you can interact with best. If you don't have people in your community, you've been socially isolating, you want to join community. Okay, you want to look for people out there that are like-hearted and like-minded. Notice I said like-hearted first, okay? Because like minds a lot of times just kind of blow smoke up each other's butts. A lot of community efforts when we see people trying to build intentional communities and stuff. And I've been in the spiritual world for a long time. I don't say spiritual community because there are many communities within the spiritual world, lots of different belief systems, lots of different ways of doing things. There is no one unified voice there, which is really funny because a lot of them are talking about human unity. And I'm like, you guys can't even get along. I don't know. I don't think we're going to get into unity consciousness anytime soon. And I actually hope we don't. I'd love to see us actually come to a point where we could communicate, collaborate, and play and understand each other's differences. Oh, that's really pretty. Thank you. I love these little effects. Thank you. So you can always tell my Gemini Venus goes, ooh, sparkles. But it's really, really, really important that you take an inventory of the type of support you need and the support you're able to give. Okay. Whether it's actual physical, tangible support, structural support, guidance. In a lot of these communities that people start to form because they're inspired by the 1960s propaganda, everybody's an idea person. Oh, I'm more of an idea person. No, you haven't learned how to execute. There's very few actual idea people that are real idea people because successful people execute. Okay, they have an idea and then they do something about it. So learning how to communicate so things get done is really, really necessary on the ground, whether you're in a living situation with roommates and choosing the right roommates for yourself, or you're starting a business, or you're joining a business, or you're working together in your community, understanding whose skill sets are where, who's good at what, who can teach whom, who has an interest in things. We've been forcing people to do stuff they hate for a long time. I think more than enough people are going to like doing enough different things that we can reorganize working in a way that we're doing stuff we enjoy. I pull a lot of hours of what I do. And some of what I do in my business isn't my favorite part. Some of it, I now have hired people to help me, which I'm thrilled to be able to do. I have Chris, who sends out the links for the recordings I do. I love that. She doesn't work a ton of hours. She got me caught up. I was way behind and she put a lot of hours in up front. So instead of paying her less, I pay her the same as I paid her for getting me caught up. Why should she be penalized for being efficient? And I want her help. I rely on her. I trust her. And I know it helps her, right? So being an ethical contractor, right? I'm contracting her help, so I'm the contractee. But being ethical in that and making sure she's supported. I like being able to have revenue to be able to bring people in who I want to work with, right? And support them. Those are all things we can do instead of trying to figure out how we get the best deal and how you can screw somebody over. That has to end. We can't afford that anymore. People can't afford that anymore. And we can't see that as being successful. Okay, Dan Price is a great example of that. He is an angel investor and entrepreneur in Seattle. He cut his salary to $70,000 and he cut it big time. And he's paying his employees a minimum of $70,000 a year. They said, oh, that's a horrible idea. His business won't be viable. He grew. He just kept growing. He just kept growing. And he's really fun to follow on like LinkedIn or Twitter. He's on TikTok as well. He's really worth listening to. He's doing really well. Those are the types of enterprises that are the vanguards of what we're going to see 30 years from now. So he's like pioneering the concepts that will be the norm. And people will look back and go, why didn't people always do this? So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Paying for skill and not time and loyalty. Somebody who is right there, they're on it. Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, just like when you do a reading with me, you're not really paying me for my time. Okay? You're paying me for what I know. It's not an hourly wage. Okay? In fact, I can charge more than I charge. I'm just trying to keep myself accessible, because if I was charging what most people of my skill and my experience charge, it would be triple. It would be triple. But I wanted to make myself more accessible. I've been trying to get people ready for the big changes ahead. And they're big. We're going some of the biggest change in human history. And that means we have to rethink how we do everything and build new habits and take responsibility for ourselves and the role we play within society, which doesn't mean beat yourself up or punish yourself, but it's understanding you can be proactive and actively engaged in your community and working with people, like catching yourself and owning up to where maybe you're not in line with where we need to go in the future. And it's a learning curve. None of us have it. Like, even as an astrologer, I can give you my best understanding of the energy that's coming, but until we actually take action and onus of our own behavior, we can't know how to change. So yeah. Oh, thank you, honey. Yeah. Well, to me, it's not enough to have astrological knowledge. You have to be able to apply it. And so a lot of what I see is people parroting, like everybody. I cannot count the amount of people who come to me going, okay, I know a lot about astrology. And I'm like, okay, do you apply it? Now, I don't say that. I usually smile and go, because I know most people haven't been taught how to apply the knowledge. You can read a lot of books. You can have a lot of knowledge up in your head. If you don't know how to work with it, what good does it do you? And we need all hands on deck. We need all hands on deck for the next several decades. You know, people keep asking me, when is it going to get better? It's going to take a while. It's not going to be better in 4 years. It's not going to be better in 5 years. It's going to be different every single year, but there will be its own set of challenges. Okay. We were all born for these times. And as soon as we get over the idea of, oh no, what are we going to do? And actually go, oh, we need to restructure things and stop pretending it's all going to go back to normal. Because it's not going back to normal. And you can see that the leadership is trying to pretend nothing's wrong. We're all fine. We'll all be back to normal soon. Just keep doing what you've been doing. It's not going to be okay. It's not going to work that way. We must innovate. We have to overhaul everything we do, every structure, whether it's the educational system, higher education, entertainment, broadcast news, how we even tax people has to be changed. Everything gets changed. Infrastructure needs to be changed. The type of energy we use. There's going to be a gas shortage, natural gas shortage. So this winter, I've been warning you guys to get ready. Get ready. So yeah, just keep buying. Exactly. Well, yeah, and so this is the time they are gaslighting, and yet at the same time, we need to stop blaming them while we drink the Kool-Aid. And I'm not talking about one side or the other. I'm talking about all sides. And we need to look at what's in my local area. How do I work with the people I can see around me? How do I work with the people that are right next to me? And get involved in the local governance. Get involved, make the difference. Get involved. People have been kept so busy they couldn't be involved, and that's why we're here. Yeah. Exactly. Impotent rage is a waste of your energy. Impotent rage. You sit and blame everybody. But what are we doing? Now, we only have so much power on our own. That's why we, the collective, are represented by Saturn in Aquarius. That is the collective authority. But you have to group together. That whole, well, I rock solo thing. It's not useful. It's not useful. You've got to find a community of people you can work together with. It's not useful. Like, I'm looking to move. I did see a cool place, but my boyfriend made a really, really good point. He's like, that's really far out of the way, and there's not a lot of people in that area that live there that's going to jive with you. You probably want to still be closer into LA. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. Just because it's a nice place and it's affordable or more affordable, you're right. I am going to be a little more isolated out there. I'm not going to get along with people. I need to find a place that's in an area where I know I'm going to meet up with people I can jive with and participate with. Correct. So, there we go. You're welcome. You're planning to work on your bachelor's next year. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. So we need to, with Saturn stationing direct, things now start to move a lot faster. Be expecting a lot of big bombshell news headlines. There's going to be more leadership corruption from corporate, from local government, school districts, hospital administrations. You hear a lot of scandals because now everything starts speeding up. Everything starts speeding up, and we're going to start watching some systems unravel a little bit. People are going to be a little bit up in arms. And I'm not talking about one side or the other. I'm talking about people in general, the collective in general. Okay. So, and that's in all countries. Mr. Bossy Pants' boyfriend, yes. Oh, big love to you. You're not far. San Diego is cool. Yeah. Exactly. Everything is going to come out in a wash. I don't know if you guys saw my Facebook prediction, but back in 2020, in September of 2020, I predicted to a friend who's also an astrologer, because I've been trying to get that guy off Facebook forever. I was like, you need to get off Facebook. This thing is going down. And I had been looking at the chart because I was actually looking with great hope because I don't like Facebook. I've never liked Facebook. It's not somewhere I've ever enjoyed being. And sure enough, when I looked at the chart, I was like, oh, we going down. It's going to get sued and broken up. So it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to die, but it'll get broken up. And it's going to probably go the way of MySpace. TikTok's probably going to be its replacement in some way, but there's so many others. I think what we're going to see is a lot more different kinds of social media pop up, and people go back to niching again, like it used to be. So, yeah. You stay for the memes. I think we'll have plenty of memes. I don't think Instagram's going away. I think Instagram will have the memes. I think they'll have to sell things off. Remember, they own LinkedIn as well. So they'll probably have to sell LinkedIn. They'll probably have to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. But they will be sued. Unfortunately, there's no time for Zuckerberg. I found one chart with a time for him, but I just don't think he's a Sagittarius rising. He doesn't look like a Sag rising to me. He could be a Pisces rising, maybe. Unlikely, but he's not. There's no way he's a Sag rising. Yeah, I'm on. No, he's not a Taurus rising by any way, shape, or form. No, he could be I could see him as a Pisces or Aquarius rising, possibly. But Yeah, no, I've looked at the planets, but we don't have a time. And you need the time to make accurate predictions because we need the houses. He could be a Cap rising. He's not handsome enough, though. I don't think he's a Cap rising. Cap risings tend to be pretty handsome beings. So, yeah. Oh, he reminds you of your brother. Don't tell him. That's funny. Yeah, it's possible, Aquarian. Maybe. I don't know. I need a time for him. So, but looking at Facebook's chart, it goes down in 2023. So, yeah. Oops. Looking like aliens. Well, people with Aquarius rising tend to be guarded, so, yeah, because remember, Aquarius actually rules humanity, so, and its traditional ruler is Saturn, so, yeah, you look unique, often very large eyes, very large eyes that are, that Do I think he knows astrology is legit and deliberately kept his birth time private? I wondered about that. It may be that, it may be, but if he has an astrologer, they're not doing a very good job of keeping him informed, or he's not listening. Not it be that, that his family kept it quiet. Not everybody wanted it recorded. It could be religious. You never know. Yes, Virgo risings tend to be very attractive. Tend to be, yeah. Yeah. The earth signs, earth risings tend to be very attractive people. So, yeah. I mean, he could even be a Scorpio rising. He's got quite the resting bitch face, and I'm a Scorpio rising, so, but that could be. He has other stuff. It could be an Aries rising. Right? Are these earrings not the best? I got them at Target. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll start watching that happen at the end of 2022 into 2023. It's if you have business, like if you've got the majority of your business stuff on Facebook, you probably want to start migrating to other channels and start moving your audience. Of course, you should always have your own email list. You should always have your own email list. Always. Don't just write off of a platform. Yeah, here I am on TikTok, but I have a website you can sign up on. I have a Patreon. Those emails I can collect and put into my email system. I have ways to communicate with people, but there's lots of places you go. You don't just rely on one place. That's dangerous. Right? We're in October and it's all happening. I know. I feel like I'm so done with October. I lived through it all year long, warning you guys, right? I'm like, okay, I'm so moving into 2022 now because I'm so done with 2021. I'm starting to look at the 2022 charts to get you guys ready for 2022, the great maze with the booby traps. So, yeah, that's good. Yeah. The year's lesson not to centralize anything. Well, honestly, I think that was the lesson of 1998, but nobody listened in 1998. So we're just paying for some really bad decisions. But yeah. Would I be interested in reconnecting in communications? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Oh, hang on a second. Facebook is awful, right? Yeah. Authentic mystic. Reconnecting. So I know you? Remember, I'm blind. Send me an email on my website. Jupiter Neptune conjunction next year. Yes. Oh, right on your Jupiter Pisces. What a nice Jupiter return. Yeah, I'll talk a lot about that. Yeah. Oh, Shauna. Oh, duh. Hey, Shauna. How are you? Yeah, send me an email. Yeah. Yeah, Jupiter Neptune conjunction. Yeah. That's a great Jupiter return, but we do need to be careful about COVID then. Yeah. Right. Yeah, people need to have other stuff. Yeah, Jupiter Pisces. That means it's your Jupiter return. It happens every 12 years. It's a really fortunate time. However, depends on what else is going on. Now, Jupiter and Neptune conjunct on a personal level, you'll be able to manifest lots of cool stuff. On a collective level, I really, really think COVID is going to take off in a whole new way. So do make sure you absolutely continue to wear your mask. I don't care if you've had triple the vaccines. I don't care how many boosters are out there. Continue your protocol when you're in public. Wear your masks, wash your hands. I don't care where your vibe is at. Make sure you take care of yourself. Okay. Just because that Jupiter and Neptune both rule Pisces. Pisces rules viruses. This is an expansion of that. The rest of the world, and even in the United States, we're not there vaccinated. Okay. So it just gives things a chance to mutate, etc. So. Oh, chicken math. Awesome. I'm glad you got the garden started. I don't really use perfections just because Hellenistic astrology is a great study to understand the history of astrology, but I am a progressive evolutionary astrologer. We don't live in ancient Greece. That culture has been gone a long time. I don't care how good you are at translating old scrolls. We don't really know how it was applied. We can give our best guesses. The calculations are fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. But perfections are a nice general overview. They're just not going to give you the specificity of understanding transits. Okay? So it's more important to study transits and mundane astrology from a different way. Like I said, perfections give you a nice little overview. I don't really use them just because when I've studied into it, I was just like, it doesn't do anything more. It doesn't add more to it. It's just like a shorthand. So. Honestly, manifesting for people isn't really manifesting for them. It manifests for you. That's their walk. If they don't believe in themselves, or they're not lining up, or something isn't aligned for them, that promotion may not be the best thing for that person. You can certainly aid and abet them in their own goals, and kind of join with them in it, but it's not always the best idea to take responsibility for somebody else's path, even if it's your spouse. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I have already, if you go to my website, you'll find the How to Read Your Birth Chart. I know a lot of you have been trying to join that group. That group is for people who have paid for the class, and they can come in and study after paying for the class. That class is listed up on my website. It's a recorded class, and then you get to meet with me live every other week to ask questions. And it comes with the astrological cheat sheet as well as the workbook on understanding the natal chart. And then I'm teaching Saturn returns and Saturn through the houses on Halloween. So I'll be teaching a lot of classes. I'm going to be teaching about one planet every month for the next 12 months. But I'll maybe also adding in like teaching about transits, understanding the difference between natal and transits, lunar returns, solar returns, kind of predictive astrology. We're going to go into that in the Saturn return class, because Saturn returns is actually a chart. Okay. A lot of people don't know about that because a lot of people are not classically trained. They think they're studying traditional astrology when they study Hellenistic astrology, but Hellenistic astrology is not traditional astrology. It is a modern interpretation of ancient Greek practices that have been uncovered and studied since 1996. I've studied with some of the founders of Project Hindsight. Okay, it's still an interpretation. It's not actual traditional. Traditional astrology is kind of gone, but my lineage does go back and back and back and back and back and back. You know, astrologers who taught astrologers who taught astrologers. So Saturn direct very much could impact how you want to work in the world. It depends on what Saturn is transiting in your natal chart. Yes, coffee with me on Sunday. Go check Patreon. Cool. Yeah, next month I'll be, next month is November. I gotta decide what I'm going to teach in November. I might teach Jupiter in November. And then December, well, no, December's really Jupiter. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll do Mars in November. We'll see. I haven't decided. Yeah. In attachment theory, I don't... Like attachment parenting, or when is Venus? I don't know. I have to map it out. You mean like attachment in relationships or attachment parenting? I mean, they're kind of related. Right. I know what the different attachment styles are. I just wasn't sure what kind of attachment theory you meant. Yeah, I was actually into attachment parenting. Yeah. And it's funny, it's not just relationships. If you're in business, it'll show up with your clients too. Yup. Oh, I love that you've got a good solar return. Those are always nice when they're beautiful. My day is good. Yeah, you can see attachment issues in charts too. No, I'm not going to tell you what they are. It will with every human. It will with every human. Absolutely. When you have a relationship, that's where it shows up. We do need to talk. In fact, I need to get off this live stream and start working on the, I need to start working on the Astro Guide for Saturn. But, so remember, Saturn stations direct on the 10th. One or two things you can do is just clean up your environment. Make sure you've got things organized. Start taking a list of the people you know who you can collaborate with. People who have complementary skills. Not people who do exactly what you do, but people who complement what you do. So, yeah. What I do... Oh, yes, I do. If you did a parent-child reading, you wanted to understand your mom, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it helps a lot. That was one of the things in my healing journey that really, really helped, was taking a look at my relationship to my parents and seeing how our charts interacted. Like when I took a look at my mom's chart the first time and I saw that my sun was in her 12th house, and I was like, wow, I drowned my mom. My emotional nature drowns her. She could not deal with the depth. You know, just because she can deal with her own depth. And so I showed up, you know, so that dynamic played out really strongly. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you only knew Casey, if I told you my whole story, you'd be like, holy shit, how are you still alive? And I'd be like, Pluto. Pluto's why I'm still alive. Pluto's not the destroyer that people think it is. I wouldn't be here without Pluto transits. If it was just Mars running the show, I'd be gone a long time ago. So, anywho, guys, I do have writing I need to get to so I can get everybody ready for the Saturn workshop. Once again, I'm going to let you know if... Whoa. Okay, oh my God. What happened with that? What the hell? Oh my God. How do I stop that? This is so funny. It is Mercury.